All right, let's talk gravel. I bet you didn't think we'd be deep diving into that today.
It's not the most glamorous topic.
It's not. But for anyone living in a dry climate, especially a place like Arizona, well, it turns out gravel's kind of a secret weapon for landscaping.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, we found this great article called Why Gravel is the MVP of Arizona Landscaping that really got us thinking.
Yeah, I mean, we all know gravel for driveways and pathways, but it's so much more than that.
So much more.
This article dives into how you can make your yard beautiful, low maintenance, and even eco-friendly with gravel.
That eco-friendly part is what really caught my eye, especially in the desert. You know, saving water is a huge deal.
Absolutely, so gravel's a winner right there. But the article mentions a whole bunch of other benefits too. What else stood out to you?
Well, I mean, aside from the obvious, right? It's super durable, can handle that intense Arizona sun, those sudden downpours. But honestly, the cost effectiveness really surprised me.
Okay, in what way?
Well, you don't have to water it, you don't have to fertilize it, you don't have to mow it.
Yeah, that's going to add up to some serious savings over time.
Big time.
I'm starting to see this whole MVP thing now. Practical, affordable, sustainable. But the article also mentions aesthetic versatility, and that's where I got a little lost.
Right.
I mean, when I think gravel, I'm picturing like a plain gray driveway. Help me out here.
Oh, you're totally missing out on the bigger picture. Gravel comes in a crazy amount of colors, textures, and sizes.
Really?
Oh, yeah. I mean, whether you're going for like a sleek, modern look, that rustic desert vibe, or something completely unique, there's a gravel out there to match. It's pretty cool.
So you're telling me I could have a Zen garden with gravel?
Totally.
I'm starting to see the possibilities. But I'm guessing, though, different types of gravel are better for different uses. You wouldn't use the same gravel for a pathway as you would for a driveway.
Yeah,
right?
exactly. The article actually calls out pea gravel as being great for pathways. It's small, it's smooth, makes for a nice walking surface. But for a driveway where you've got the weight of cars, you're going to want something sturdier, like decomposed granite or crushed stone.
Okay, so it's about using the right gravel for the job. But I'm
Well-
curious, beyond paths and driveways, what are some of the maybe more unexpected ways people are using gravel? The article hinted at some pretty creative stuff.
Oh, yeah, it gets really interesting. One of the most practical uses is for erosion control. Those sloped areas, they can be a real problem, especially during those heavy Arizona rains.
You tell me, all that soil runoff.
Exactly, and gravel acts as like a protective barrier so the soil doesn't just wash away.
Okay, so it's like armor for your landscaping. I like
Right.
that.
Mm.
But how does it actually work? I mean, it's just a bunch of rocks, right?
Right, but think of it as a stabilizing layer. So when you spread gravel on a slope or anywhere that's erosion prone, it helps to bind the soil together. And those spaces between the rocks, well, they let the water infiltrate slowly so you have less runoff.
Ah, so it's not just about blocking the water, it's about managing it. That makes sense.
Exactly.
And speaking of managing water, the article also mentioned using gravel for drainage solutions. What's that all about?
Well, you know how Arizona gets those sudden heavy downpours. If your yard doesn't drain properly, you end up with a swamp. Gravel can really help direct that water flow and prevent puddles.
So it's about keeping things dry. How does it do that? Does the gravel, like, absorb the water?
It's not really about absorption, it's about creating those channels for the water to flow through. The article talked about French drains and dry riverbeds. Have you heard of those?
I've heard of French drains, but I don't really know how they work.
It's actually a pretty simple idea. It's basically a trench. You fill it with gravel, and it slopes downwards. So that creates a pathway for the water to flow away from, problem areas in your yard.
So if you have a spot that always floods, a French drain can redirect that water somewhere else.
Exactly.
That's clever. And what about dry riverbeds? That sounds a little more, I don't know, decorative.
They are, definitely. A dry riverbed, it's meant to look like a natural riverbed, even though it's usually dry. You create that shallow trench, fill it with gravel, and when it rains, the water flows through, just like in nature.
So it's like a water feature, but without the actual water. And it helps with drainage. That's pretty cool.
It's a win-win.
Okay, I'm liking this. So we talked about gravel for practical stuff, but the article also mentioned using it for decorative purposes.
That will work.
Borders, accents, even rock gardens. I gotta admit, I never thought of gravel as being, stylish.
I know, right? But you can use it to create really clean lines, define spaces in your yard. A lot of people use it as mulch in garden beds, helps to retain moisture, suppress weeds. And you can even use it to create those focal points in a rock garden or around plants.
Okay, I'm starting to see it now. But With so many options, how do you even choose the right gravel? It's a little overwhelming.
It can be. One of the most important things is to think about the size of the gravel. Like we were saying,
Hmm.
smaller gravel, like pea gravel, that's great for pathways, comfortable to walk on. But if you're doing a driveway, you need something larger, more angular to support the weight of the cars.
Makes sense. And I imagine the color and texture of the gravel plays a big role too, right, in how it all looks.
Huge role. You want to choose a gravel that works with your house, your landscaping, your style.
And personal style, yeah.
Yeah, some people like that natural look with the earth tone gravel. Others might want something bolder, black or white gravel. There's a lot to play with.
So many choices. It's like picking paint for your walls, but for your yard.
Exactly. And just like with paint, have fun with it. Choose what speaks to you.
Love that.
Yeah.
So we've covered the benefits of gravel, the different types, how to use it. Now, I wanted to try to bring this all together. Can you paint a picture for our listeners? Like, how can gravel transform a typical Arizona yard?
Sure. Let's say you have a classic, like, ranch style house in Mesa, wide open front yard. Instead of a lawn, picture a pathway, winding pathway of smooth, light colored pea gravel leading up to the front door.
Okay, I can picture it. Very inviting. What else can we add?
To give it some visual interest and define the edges of that pathway,
Okay.
maybe some borders of larger, darker gravel, deep red or chocolate brown, to contrast with that lighter pea gravel.
Ooh, now we're talking. That's starting to sound really stylish. What about around the house itself?
Instead of using traditional mulch, maybe a layer of gravel, different shades of brown and gray around the foundation of the house, any existing trees or shrubs. Gives it that unified look, suppresses weeds, and helps retain moisture in the soil.
Okay, that's practical and beautiful, and it really plays up that desert aesthetic. But what about those drainage issues? A lot of Arizona homeowners struggle with those. How can we work that into our design?
Well, that's where those French drains and dry riverbeds come in. Let's say our homeowner has a spot in the backyard that always floods. We could put in a French drain filled with gravel, hidden under some decorative rock, to redirect that water away from the house.
So smart, you solve the problem, but it doesn't mess up the look of your yard.
Exactly. And then, to add a little drama and, some ecological function, we could create a dry riverbed winding through the backyard. Not only would it look amazing, but it would also help manage all that rainwater runoff and prevent erosion.
Okay, now I'm really seeing it. You're bringing a piece of the desert landscape right into your backyard. And I bet you could plant all kinds of drought-tolerant plants along the edges of that dry riverbed.
Absolutely. It's all about working with the natural environment, using materials like gravel to make your outdoor space both beautiful and functional.
This is really eye-opening. I'm already thinking about how I can use gravel in my own yard.
Yeah.
But I think we need to take a quick pause here.
Yeah, good idea.
We'll be right back after a short break to explore even more gravel landscaping ideas and answer some of your burning questions.